evening, everyone. I'm Assemblymember Al Maritsucci. I have the privilege of representing Lomita, Harbor City, Harbor Gateway, and West Carson in the California legislature, and as well as the rest of the South Bay from Manhattan Beach and Gardena down through Palos Verdes. Hope everyone is well. Let me just, I just want to give a few overview remarks about some of what we've been working on, some of the big issues that I know people in Lomita and Harbor City, Harbor Gateway, West Carson have been dealing with. And then I'd like to also welcome and invite all of the elected officials and other representatives from the Lomita Harbor area to join us. We are very happy to welcome Lomita Mayor Pro Tem Cindy Sagawa. I think I see Cindy's iPad, so I suspect that's the Mayor Pro Tem there. And we are also, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, good to see you. And we also are joined by Lomita City Manager Ryan Smoot, who'll be available for any questions that Lomita residents may have about what's going on in their community. We're also happy that Lomita Chamber of Commerce CEO Heidi Bootsing has joined us. Good evening, Heidi. And maybe if we're lucky, I know that Mayor Mark Warnick from Lomita and Councilmember Bill Uphoff may also be joining us. So yeah, I'm hoping that we can have a good conversation rather than me just being this talking head, and that we can try to address your concerns, your questions, your gripes. You know, I'm here to listen. So before I go any further, I want to welcome Mayor Pro Tem Sagawa. And Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to say a few words?
Certainly. I'd like to thank you for inviting us to participate. And I would just like the public to know that public safety is our first and our top priority, and that we're considering the addition of a new deputy, and that we have put money aside, and actually we've given money to the Sheriff's Department to do some traffic enforcement. We have targeted areas around the city that we felt needed extra enforcement. So we've done that. We'd like to remind people that we are upgrading the well, and that is all under construction, and we are looking into purchasing another well, because there is the concern we don't want to have to be dependent on anybody for our water, especially in the conditions we're in right now with a drought. We want to be able to have our own local resources. The government did give us $4 million in federal funding to use for local businesses. So if there's someone that feels they need some help, a business that needs help, funding with facade improvements, rehiring, training, recovery or expansion of the business, there will be more details coming, and you're welcome to contact the city or the council shortly. Also, last and most importantly, we'd really like to thank you, Assemblyman Marsucci, and I know I'm probably butchering your name. My husband do that all the time. We would really like to thank you for voting against SB 9 and SB 10. For those of you residents that aren't familiar with it, we will have really basically no control over what is built in the city. And that is, you really kind of need to get a hold of your state representatives. It allows people to take and purchase your property, divide your property into 4 pieces, no matter how small it is, and build 4 structures on that. And we can't tell these people no. So Al did step in, he did vote so that we would not have it, but unfortunately there weren't enough that voted as he did. So we would like to thank him for that. And that's all I have to say this evening. Thank you so much.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem, if you can, we would invite you to stick around and.
Oh, I will.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you joining us this evening. All right, so the Mayor Pro Tem talked about some of the important issues in Lomita, public safety, water, the housing issues, these particular housing bills that were pretty controversial in Sacramento, and would love to hear any of your thoughts or concerns about this or any other bills that we've been debating in our state's capital. But before I open up for people's questions or comments, to have a good conversation this evening, I'd like to just touch on three issues that I've been working on, including the housing issue that the Mayor Pro Tem raised. Also, I'd like to talk a little bit about homelessness, all that we've been doing to address the homeless crisis, and last but not least, our efforts to try to close, what we saw during this pandemic, the digital divide. People that don't have access to affordable, reliable internet service, which is a huge issue for all the families and the kids that are trying to log on to participate in distance learning, to all of you that may be either during the last couple months, the last year and a half, or even currently telecommuting from your homes. So let me start off by saying, I should acknowledge what perhaps is obvious, that it's been a tough past year and a half, ever since the pandemic started in around February, March of 2020, and ever since then, I know as your representative that there have been so many people that have really been struggling, whether with work or with keeping up with your rent, or getting your unemployment benefits, or trying to negotiate, with your landlord for an extension for rent payments, or for all of you homeowners. Just seeing the repercussions from a lot of the hardship that people are going through, in terms of all the struggling people, and its impacts on public safety, on homelessness, on so many different other issues. And so I want to start by acknowledging that. I do want to acknowledge our hardworking team in our South Bay Torrance District Office. We have on this call here our District Director Melissa Ramoso, and Cody Bridges and Eric Ponce, among others, who all work out of our Torrance South Bay District Office to help you, to serve our communities. I know, for example, that we've been overwhelmed with so many calls, and people that can't get their EDD, Employment Development Department, unemployment benefits soon enough. Some people have had to wait months, with often frustrating experiences, dealing with being put on hold by the state bureaucracy, by getting cut off, not being able to even reach any live person to be able to talk about their unemployment benefits. And so I want to make sure we spread the word that our office, we're here to help you. We have a direct line to the EDD to try to cut through a lot of the bureaucracy to help you out. And so if you, or if anyone that is having trouble in terms of or need some help in terms of getting their unemployment benefits, please give our Torrance South Bay District Office a call or an email, and we can try to help you out. So, as I indicated earlier, one of the big challenges that we saw during the pandemic is that the pandemic exposed like so many inequities that existed before the pandemic, and one of the biggest ways that we saw this the inequities was in people's inability to be able to telecommute or to be able to get into the classroom because they didn't have affordable, reliable internet service. So that was one of my priorities this year. I introduced AB 34, the Broadband for All Bond Act. We were trying to get a statewide $10 billion investment into the statewide broadband infrastructure so that people, we can close that digital divide and try to make sure that all communities, regardless of income, regardless of where you live, has access to affordable, reliable broadband. You may be satisfied with the service that you get from Cox or whoever your local broadband internet service provider is, but I, along with other members with the South Bay cities, have been working with what's called the South Bay Fiber Initiative to establish what we call a municipal broadband infrastructure, basically a publicly owned broadband infrastructure, so that we can try to provide a choice for consumers, so that these for-profit internet service providers don't have a monopoly in your local neighborhoods, and that we can try to provide some choice for consumers and some competition against these virtual monopolies that many of these internet service provider companies have in our local neighborhoods. Out of this broadband bill that I introduced, we were ultimately able to settle upon a $7 billion state investment in statewide broadband infrastructure. Some of that funding is intended for supporting these municipal broadband initiatives like the South Bay Fiber Initiative. And so we're going to continue to work on this. And I want to make sure that you are aware of how we're trying to address this issue. Let me move on then to the next issue that it was the issue that the Mayor Pro Tem alluded to, which is housing. And the challenge basically of affordable housing in the South Bay, I'm sure we see in all communities throughout the South Bay, but the basic challenge that we're seeing not only in the South Bay but throughout the state is that we don't have enough housing. We don't have enough housing supply, and as a result, housing has become so expensive. I mean, I think the median home price in the county of Los Angeles is at or exceeded $800,000, and so while those of us that are fortunate enough to be homeowners already, we may be less concerned about that. But I think this is really about, what about our children, and what about our grandchildren? Are they going to have an opportunity to be able to live and buy their home and pursue the American dream in the neighborhoods that they grew up in? And so there's been a statewide overall effort to try to build more housing, to try to address the basic economics of supply and demand, that with more supply that in the long run housing will become more affordable. But as part of this effort, there were two particular controversial bills that the Mayor Pro Tem referred to earlier. SB Senate Bill 9 and Senate Bill 10. The more controversial one between these two was Senate Bill 9, which allows single-family home parcels that are zoned for single-family homes, where basically with this law, the owner of that parcel may by right subdivide that lot into a duplex with accompanying accessory dwelling units for each one of those duplex units. So up to 4 units on the property. There were some conditions placed on that bill, like for example, the owner has to live on that property. So you can't have like a bunch of house flippers or a bunch of private equity investors, some Wall Street investors just buying up a lot of lots and start building all these 4-unit developments on previously single family and single family neighborhoods. So the economists are analyzing this bill. They're saying that over the long run, it should not affect more than 5% of all single family parcels, single family home parcels, because of some of these conditions put on the bill. But nonetheless, it was a controversial bill because people were talking about it being the end of single family homes, single family neighborhoods. So that was the reason why I voted against SB 9. I do believe that we do need to build more housing in order to address the affordable housing crisis, but it shouldn't come at the expense of local control. Folks like Mayor Pro Tem Sagawa and the city of Lomita, local elected officials, they put a lot of time and effort into making sure that development is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, that there's the infrastructure necessary to be able to support these new homes, that doesn't have too much impact on local traffic. I know all that because I used to sit on the Torrance Planning Commission, and I know when I was a Torrance Planning Commissioner, we used to spend a lot of time, having thoughtful discussions in order to be able to plan responsibly for growth and development. So because this bill, is calling for more building without local control, I voted against the bill. But this is part of the ongoing effort to build more housing, and I'd be happy to answer any more questions or to engage in discussion about this as we go forward. Last, before we open up for discussion, I'd like to address the issue of homelessness. So this year in the budget, we planned over a 2-year period for a record $12 billion of state investments to build more affordable housing, as well as to build more shelter, more interim housing, as well as to fund the necessary mental health services, the substance abuse services, job counseling, housing counseling, all of the necessary support programs that we need in order to address this homeless crisis. And I know that nowhere in the South Bay is the homeless crisis more apparent than in the area of Lomita Boulevard and McCoy Street near the Salvation Army in the Harbor City neighborhood. There's a large homeless encampment over there. It's on City of Los Angeles property, and so we've been trying to work with the city as well as with the local homeless service provider, the Harbor Interfaith organization. Wonderful nonprofit organization that dedicated people that are working hard to try to not only help the homeless, but to make sure that these homeless encampments are not affecting local surrounding neighborhoods and trying to address public safety as well as quality of life issues. But I want to point to, as part of the solution, I'm working hard to try to prioritize that funding in order to prioritize spending for prefabricated interim housing, so that we can try to clear these homeless encampments as quickly as possible. Some good examples have popped up in the city of Redondo Beach. Is kind of taking the lead in the South Bay. They have this pilot project of they're able to put up like 20 of what are called pallet shelters. I don't know if folks have seen them before, but they're kind of like these prefab metal tool sheds, that have beds and they even have air conditioners and for each one of these tiny homes. And they're able to put them up in a matter of a couple of months. Each unit costs on average about $10,000. And I think we need to prioritize getting people off of the streets so that people are not dying on the streets, dying on their sidewalks, and try to prioritize these prefabricated interim housing units as quickly as possible, so that we can at least get them off the street, and then work toward the more long-term solutions of permanent supportive housing. Recognizing that a lot of the homeless, it's not just the lack of housing, but it's the need for aggressive mental health intervention, aggressive substance abuse treatment intervention. The city of Redondo Beach also has this great program. It's called the Homeless Court, and they're using the Homeless Court, as a point of intervention for a judge. If someone is picked up for some minor violation, like encampment on a sidewalk, or loitering, or some other relatively minor offenses, that if and when they do appear for their court appointment, that the judge, rather than trying to essentially punish them for being poor, that they use that their appearance in court to try to coordinate the delivery of these support services that may the homeless need, such as mental health treatment, such as substance abuse treatment. This has been a very successful program in Redondo Beach. And I'm going to be working on trying to make sure that they have ongoing funding for the successful program. So those are some of the things that I know folks in your neighborhoods have been concerned about. But let me just open it up now for a conversation, discussion, questions, criticism, you name it. Let's see, Cody, how do we want to do this? Do we just want to open it up for people to ask their questions? I see Wade Kyle's got his hand up there.
I'll go ahead and unmute people as they raise their hand, and they'll be able to ask the question personally to you.
Okay. How you doing, sir?
Hi, good evening. I'm good. How are you doing tonight?
All right. You got the Golden Gate Bridge behind you.
Fancy. Yes. I'm on vacation in Seattle, and the sun is in San Francisco, and the sun is always setting. It's never rising. Kind of odd. Right. My question is about traffic safety. So I live off of Eshelman in Lomita. There's a car accident on the corner of Exerman and 250th quite often, because in between Lomita and PCH, there's about one stop sign. It's up near Fleming Middle School.
Oh yeah.
So where the sheriff put the speed check recently is by the stop sign by Lomita Middle School. However, the car accidents are down here off of 250th and Eshelman. There's a large apartment complex across the street from me. I'm curious, what's the possibility of putting a stop sign at 250th and Eshelman. It's not a 4-way stop. It's kind of like a 3-way stop because there's no 250th comes like to a dead end, I guess, right there. But a stop sign would allow pedestrians to safely walk across instead of I have to sit and watch like elderly people race across Eshelman because cars are coming fast when they come off of Lomita and they hit that green arrow. They're coming fast as they can. That is where a lot of these accidents happen because of the speeding issue. I'm curious, what is the process that can be taken towards getting a stop sign put in there? I'm really not interested in more sheriffs, only because sheriffs have to take a break. You know, they have to change shifts. So there'll be a time frame where there will be no one watching. I think a stop sign may be a better use of the city's money. These people then will have to come to a stop. Maybe a rolling stop, but at least they have to slow down because the stop sign's there.
All right.
The process of trying to do that.
Okay. That definitely sounds like a City of Lomita issue. Mayor Pro Tem, or I don't know if the city manager is on the call.
Yeah, Al, this is Ryan. Wade, hi, I'm Ryan Smoot. I'm the city manager in Lomita. It's good to meet you, at least virtually. I'm sorry I don't have a photo on. I'm actually at my dad's house for dinner. But but it is great to meet you, Wade. First of all, don't hesitate to reach out to us as the city staff if you need to. We're there to help answer any of these questions. We a couple of things, 2 things. First of all, we have what we call our Ttac Committee, which is a traffic advisory committee. It's some of our staff, our core deputy from the sheriff's department, and our county traffic engineer, and they review exactly this kind of request. So if we get a request for a traffic signal or a stop sign or some new lane markings or anything like that, or a red curb, they're the ones that review that and make a recommendation to our Public Safety and Traffic Commission and ultimately the City Council. So that if you connect with us, we'll be more than happy to take that through the process with you. As for the radar signs that we recently put up, that was actually the City Council that designated some funds to do that. And we plan to move those around. That's why you'll see they're small and they're sort of, I don't want to say mobile, they're mounted to the pole, but we intentionally got those so that we can move them around to different areas as needed. And in addition to that, the council gave us some extra funds for supplemental traffic enforcement. And I know they gave some additional funds for potentially another deputy as well, but this targeted traffic enforcement program is really designed for specifically where we have issues like what you're talking about. If we have a number of accidents because people are speeding, or if people are not stopping at a stop sign that does exist, that's where we can send them out to be doing that enforcement. And that's when we find that people comply and we start to see safety increasing. So that's really what those programs are designed for. So those are the 2 things I'd say for that. But really, as far as adding any kind of traffic calming or anything like that, reach out to us and we can, and our Public Works Department, and we can walk you through that process of taking that request through.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wade, my email, my direct email is on our website. If you want to shoot me an email, or our Public Works Director, Carla Dillon, she'd be happy to carry it through for you too.
Okay.
There we go. Good government at work. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Let's see. We see any? If I don't see any hands coming up, then I'm gonna be like a school teacher and start calling on people.
So remember, we have Heidi Boutine with the Lomita Chamber with her hand raised.
Yes.
Good evening, Assembly Member. Thank you so much for putting this together. And I just want to give a shout out to Cody for being our point of contact here, boots on the ground in Lomita, for some of the things that we've been doing here in the community, including celebrating the opening of businesses and celebrations that still go on despite COVID. So I appreciate Cody and his outreach, and thank you for having this forum. Of course, as the Lomita Chamber of Commerce, it would be nice to hear from you. I mean, I'm involved with SBACC and these other organizations with my other colleagues with other South Bay chambers, but what are some of the priorities that you have for our business community? When I go and talk to our local business owners, they are, in some cases, especially like our restaurants and our breweries and our retail establishments, we have our county requirements, we have our state requirements and other federal requirements. They don't all jive. One supersedes the other. Our businesses are really hard pressed in trying to follow the rules, do the right thing, keep people safe, their customers and their employees. And you've got Cal OSHA coming in, you've got county requirements, and they don't all connect. And so there's a sense of frustration from our business community for those who may not be on this call tonight. I wish they were, because it can't just be one voice. But as that representative in this case, what are some of the priorities you have for our business community? I know you've done a lot of significant work to help support our businesses in the South Bay, but I would love to hear that from you, and what you need support from, at least from the Lomita Chamber, and what you need to hear back from our business community, so I can take that message back to the business owners that I speak to on a daily basis. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Heidi, for being a voice for the small businesses, not only in Lomita, but similar situated small businesses throughout the South Bay. During the pandemic last year, Donna Dupron, your friend at the Torrance Chamber of Commerce, she helped set up a small business walk, for me to meet with business owners, business operators, and so I got a chance to talk to them in person directly. It was around September of last year, and so we were all just meeting outside with our masks on. This is before any of us had any vaccines. But what I was hearing from the small business owners that really struck me was their, of course, they were struggling with all the mandates. Back then, they were just starting to reopen, especially the restaurants, and they were complaining about how several of them complained about how they were having a hard time keeping up with their commercial rent payments, and how they would try to negotiate for some kind of a break or at least a payment plan with their landlords, but that their landlords wasn't giving them a break, and even Donna Dupron in the Torrance Chamber of Commerce. I mean, they were asking their landlord for some kind of flexibility in terms of making their rent payment, and they were having some hard time getting that, and I was really struck by how similar that was to what I was hearing from residential tenants. That there are so many residential tenants that were struggling with the work slowdowns, with the shutdowns, with many businesses, people not being able to keep up with their rent payments, and so we passed several major bills to protect residential tenants, but we weren't doing anything in terms of trying to help with the rent payments for commercial tenants. So that was one thing that I prioritized in terms of my bills this year. I introduced Assembly Bill 255, which was what I thought was a pretty common sense, a pretty reasonable proposal, which is that before any commercial landlord can evict their small business tenant, that they have to at least engage in some good faith negotiation with the small business tenant to see if they can come to an agreement, on some kind of a rent repayment schedule. It wasn't a mandate other than a requirement that before you can evict them, go to unlawful detainer court, they have to demonstrate that they engaged in this good faith negotiation. Ultimately, this bill, it died on the assembly floor. I mean, I couldn't even get my Democratic colleagues to, some of my Democratic colleagues to support it. Mostly because it was opposed by the powerful commercial landlord lobby. But I just share that experience as one example of how, I definitely listen to, people like you and the Lomita Chamber and our local small businesses. If there are specific proposals, or complaints that you have, we'd like to, try to be problem solvers, try to figure out if there is a way that we can help, either informally or formally through the introduction of a bill. I had another bill that this bill fortunately made it to the governor's desk and it was signed into law. Assembly Bill 511, the California Small Business Equity Crowdfunding Act. This is something that I've been working on for several years, and we're finally able to get it signed into law. But it's basically streamlining and making it easier for small businesses to be able to access early seed capital investors through crowdfunding portals. So if Heidi, if you want more information on that, or we would love to have our small businesses be able to access capital. I often hear from small businesses that one of their biggest challenges is getting access to capital so that they can put their dream business into motion. But that's one example of a bill that I was able to get signed into law this year. But other than that, Heidi, I'm all open to any suggestions, complaints, and want to make sure that we support our small businesses, especially during this tough time. How are the small businesses in Lomita and the area doing in general? Oh, did we lose her?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Thanks, Cody. It's a struggle. Lomita is a small business community, as I think most people know. We don't have major employers necessarily. We have our local surrounding communities that have major employers and bigger entities. We have the small business, so we have retail, we have hospitality, we have restaurants, we have breweries, we have professional services, and I think a large number of home-based businesses. And when I do talk to our members, with many of them focused in the restaurant, service, brewery space, they are facing a number of challenges with the new requirement, recommendation, insert the term here, from county and otherwise, in terms of now requiring customers to prove vaccination status and or a COVID test status. So, it's very challenging. They're trying to, like I said, I literally walked in on a business owner yesterday and they were reading through their Cal OSHA, I'll say violations or recommendations, and saying simply that we are following the county's guidelines. So there's a lot of, which is part of the chamber's role, is to help navigate some of that by putting them in contact with the right people. But our small businesses are really challenged and hard pressed by trying to follow the rules, but also knowing that they're putting their employees in a really precarious position in some cases. If we look at what's happened in New York, and even our own local anecdotal information of people saying, well, you have to have a vax record, you have to wear a mask, and some customers not wanting to do that when they enter into a business. Their employees are the front line to make that decision, and it's very challenging. And so, and also from the employee perspective, if not all employees choose to take that vaccination, and for whatever reason, there's no judgment, that puts the employer in a really precarious position too. So those are the challenges we're seeing. I mean, homelessness is part of it. I mean, I spoke to our credit union here in Lomita, and they had a homeless issue. And I'll share this with our city folks and our sheriff's department. That is starting to encroach more and more on some of our local businesses. But also a lot of the mandates, and trying to figure out, with all the requirements that a business has to face, navigating that, making the employees feel secure. And it's just a lot to ask, on top of just trying to get their head down and recover from the past year and keep their employees happy, and even find employees in some cases. The hiring vacuum is very much existent. So we're trying through the chamber, and if there's a need in our community, if our businesses need this, we're trying to find a way to offer that resource to help give them options to hire people. And it's just a really, I guess, maybe a perfect storm of a lot of different challenges that are already on top of just being a small business owner, just day to day. So it's the vaccination mandates and all the other things, and keeping employees retained, and then some of the homeless challenges, which is probably, I'm going to say, lower on the tier of just the day-to-day that some of our predominant businesses in Lomita have to face. So the question, but that's the reality. So I know I've talked to Cody about doing kind of a walkabout, which I know I saw you at years ago in North Redondo. And maybe we just get that on the calendar for the opportunity to have you visit some of the businesses and hear from the business owners directly. And so I know COVID's presented challenges. So Cody, I see you. Let's try to figure that out. But those are the challenges that I hear a lot from our business community. So thank you for
thank you for sharing. I mean, that must be tough. I think we've all seen some of these viral videos of employees trying to deal with people that refuse to wear a mask or to cooperate. And I know that people are all stressed out, and some people, maybe need to do what my daughter always tells me to do, to take a chill pill. But it's got to be tough to be on the front lines for a lot of these employees. Mr. Irvine, I see your hand up.
Yes, and I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No.
I wanted to chime in on what we were just talking about, dialoguing about the COVID situation. This is a personal input, because I know, Assemblyman, you have a hard job, just like anybody in politics, and now it's even harder for all of us day to day. But I feel that if things have been put out there on a plus side, not just negative, if you get it, you're going to die, you're not going to recover. But let's hear about the recovery. Let's hear about the 98% recovery in this country or world, in this country alone. 90% of the folks who get COVID globally have recovered. We don't hear enough of that. And if you aren't doing alternate searches, because everything you see and hear on the internet or television, it's not always a conspiracy. You have to figure that out yourself. God gave us all a brain. It's time to use it. But when you start taking folks' rights away or privileges, yes, you're going to get some pushback. But at the same time, yes, we all are in this together. We all have to do what is best for everybody. But at the same time, we still need to have a choice. When you start forcing things, then you're going to get pushback. And I happen to be retired, so I'm not in the world on a day-to-day basis. I'm fortunate, my wife and I both, but I hear and I see things, and it's just, everybody's afraid. It's so nice to see everybody without a mask on right here.
Yeah.
So nice to when I go to the store, yes, I walk from my car to the store. But once I get to the entrance, I put a mask on. Regardless of how I feel, if I want to go buy groceries, if I want to shop, I will follow the rules. As soon as I get back outside, I take it off. I'm one of those who feel natural immunity works, but I've done other things so it can help. But if anyone who wishes to take the vaccine, more power to you. But those of us who do not want to take the vaccine, please don't label us as somebody who wants to harm everybody. No, we still live in the United States of America. That flag behind you says so. We all represent that. We all still have some freedoms. And once we get it, once we start losing those, people are going to do things. And stress builds up, and you can have just an explosion. God willing, that doesn't happen. We don't want that. But at the same time, people need to hear some good things about the pandemic. Yes, there is an end there is light at the end of the tunnel. If we need more shots, or if we need boosters, okay, fine. But if there's a pill that Merck is coming out with, if that pill can work, let's go for it. Let's use it. I don't know if anybody knows, but Bill Gates just kicked in over what, 10 to $15 billion today for Merck to get it rolling even quicker and faster. So there are alternate ways to help people and to solve this issue, but we have to start hearing the positive side of it. We can't keep hearing the negative. If Governor Newsom wants to mandate, then he should come up with an alternate plan for those who maybe don't want to do that. But you can't take somebody's job away. That's not right. That's unfair to the person who's been in a job situation for 20, 25 years. I know where I used to work. If they had told me that I had to wear a mask, I would have said no. If I had to get a vaccine, I would say no. I would retire. But if I was a 10-year employee, I'd have to make a choice, a hard choice, like so many folks have to today. But it's nothing. I don't feel, and I'm sorry if I'm going on and on. Please forgive me. But I just think we need to hear some positive sides of this. And I know, Assemblyman, your job is very difficult, and I know the mayor of Lomita, even the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, walking down the street in Lomita, I'm sure people are probably giving her some looks behind as she passes by, or saying some things because she's not doing anything that maybe they think that's really benefiting her. But these folks maybe they don't understand the whole story, the big picture, and there is a big picture. But me, on a personal basis, I would just like to hear some positive things in the news media and stop with the negative, because there is light at the end of this tunnel with the pandemic that we're in.
Yeah. Mary, Ms. Mortellaro, I see your hand. Before we go to you, let me just share some of my thoughts with Mr. Irvine. Obviously you're touching on the big debate that everyone's having nowadays. How do we try to keep everyone safe while respecting, as much as possible, people's freedoms? It's a tough balancing act. I think you're asking for sharing some good news. For me, the good news is that California, I believe we have currently we have the lowest COVID rate in the entire country, and I believe that is largely because we have the highest or one of the highest vaccination rates. So I understand that you may have your reservations about getting vaccinated. I guess for me, I try to follow, the objective. Well, I'd like to think that science is more objective than, at least definitely more objective than politicians, right? But it just seems like whether we're talking about allowing businesses to be able to reopen, or for our kids to get back into the classroom, or I mean, we're just trying to juggle so many complicated moving pieces, and it seems like the best strategy is to encourage as many people as possible to get vaccinated, and so I respect it. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Mr. Irvine. But I still would encourage as many people as possible to get vaccinated. But thank you, sir. Ms. Mortellaro, how are you doing?
All right. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. I just wanted more elaboration on the broadband and access for internet for, I mean, is this going to be like subsidized for people with low income who can't afford, like, laptops and stuff like that?
Yeah, so it's still in its very early stages, I have to admit, but this South Bay Fiber Initiative, it's a collaborative of, I believe there are 15 South Bay cities. I don't know if Ms. Segal or Mr. Smoot, if you know, if I forget if Lomita is part of the collaborative, but so there's the basic backbone of this publicly owned municipal broadband fiber network that has connected these 15 cities, and then it's up to the cities, as to whether they want to invest in expanding that backbone, or that basic foundation of this public broadband network, to connect the local residents or local businesses. But we're starting with what's called the anchor institutions. So it would be the city halls, the schools, the police and fire stations, so that they can have access to this publicly owned broadband network, especially for like emergency response services. Do you live in Lomita, or?
Yes, I'm in Lomita.
Oh, okay. So Ms. Segal or Mr. Smoot, do you know if you are part of the South Bay Fiber Network?
Yes,
Okay.
we are.
And
Yeah, Al, we are part of the South Bay Fiber Network. We have, in fact, we were one of the first ones to jump in with it, and we have connected already. City Hall is our first one because it was somewhat centrally located, at least. The next ones we're one of the few cities that will have multiple sites, actually. The next ones we will have will be Lomita Park, and eventually we'll have our Cypress water production facility. The idea being, of course, we can connect our city facilities and our city infrastructure into the fiber network, but also the connections between them cross much of our city. So hopefully, I think the long-term plan of the South Bay Fiber Network is to be able to branch it out to the residences and the businesses along those routes and let them connect in if they so choose as well.
yeah, yeah. So that's a really exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's very,
vision.
very exciting. I mean, I think it's still somewhat in infancy stages, but I think there's broad plans to expand it out by creating the ring to residents and businesses as well.
So Ryan, if Lomita does move forward in trying to expand access to residents and businesses, are you looking to state and federal funding in order to be able to do that?
Yeah, so right now it's all run through the South Bay South Bay City's Council of Governments. The COG runs it, and I think they have a separate, obviously a private provider that's doing the installations, and then one that's running the program. And the idea being, when they do that, that provider will be the one that the residents and the businesses are connecting into. When we get there, and we won't probably as the city be offering it directly, but they'll be going through that provider. Basically, it's like you said, just another option that's available out there to create some competition and say, you know what, if you, the private providers, aren't going to come in and provide this where it's needed in our communities, we're going to go ahead and do it ourselves and offer this option to our residents. So I think over the long term, we'll get there. And probably not even the long term, to be honest. It's probably more of a medium term, but I don't see it in maybe this year or even perhaps next year. But I would say, if residents want information on when it's getting there, if they want to get involved in it, the South Bay City's COG is the place to get that information. Jackie has all of that. And, you know, Al, it's for the funding question, I know the COG is pushing that and always looking for funding to expand it. So any help from the state level you can give to support those efforts is going to go a long, long way.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that the COG, the Council of Governments, South Bay Council of Governments, can get access to some of that $7 billion that we put into the state budget, so that, you know, hopefully Mary there will be able to you know, not just have to pay the, what is it, $200 that I pay every month to Cox, you know,
yeah, it's crazy.
It's it's
greed. It's just greed.
Yeah, Mary, the idea we took on as the city was, if we and the South Bay COG can pick up some of that infrastructure cost to, you know, lay in the lines that are necessary to get it where it needs to go, inevitably that makes it a little bit cheaper for residents to not have to, because the company that's doing it doesn't then have to take on that infrastructure cost, and they can offer the service for cheaper. So that's kind of the long-term idea, where it might be a little more expensive for us in the short term, but we're getting a better service, and our residents over the long term can be getting a better and cheaper service.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, and Ryan, it's good to hear the excitement in your voice when you're talking about this. Obviously, you know, you have a vision for the city of Lomita, and hopefully, you know, it's supported by the council and by the residents of the community. All right, let's see. Cody, do we have any other questions? I see some questions on the chat here.
We do have a couple of questions in the chat. If you see, Kyle Irvine sent a question, as well as Sue.
Okay, so I see Mr. Irvine's question here about the homeless situation. Have I reached out to the Housing Authority, City of Los Angeles, to see if they have available land to build the temporary houses on? So, yeah, I mean, I know that we've been working with the Housing Authority. They're called LASA. But you know, one of my frustrations with LASA is that you know, they, in my opinion, they haven't been moving with enough urgency in terms of especially in terms of building these temporary you know, or tiny homes. You know, a lot of money. It takes about $500,000 to build some of these permanent housing. And right now, probably the number one priority is to convert a lot of hotels and motels into permanent housing for the homeless. And you know, whenever I visited some of these permanent housing developments for the homeless, and you know, they're nice for if you're lucky enough to get one of those units. But you know, there is an estimated over 40,000 homeless people in the entire city of Los Angeles, and 60,000 in all of LA County. And so, I'm trying to get everyone, all cities, to prioritize the temporary homes. I know that in terms of available land, like for example, all of the homeless that are at Lomita and McCoy, according to Harbor Interfaith, they get sent to what they call a bridge home in San Pedro. It's kind of it's right in front of the of the waterfront at the port, and it's kind of like maybe one or two streets away from I forget that main street down at the port. But yeah, it's like a big metallic Quonset hut, and they have like these cubicles, like partitions. It's definitely not it's not the tiny homes, but again, it's something that to try to get people off the streets, off the sidewalks, so that not only are they not exposed to the elements and dying on the streets, but it helps cities to be able to clear out some encampments and to make sure that they're not a public safety or a threat to the local residents. Again, tough balancing act. We want to make sure that we're not criminalizing poverty, but at the same time trying to people with dignity and respect. And so we're trying to do that balancing act. Let's see. Sue has a question. Just add more computers at the library. Let's see. I know that Lomita has the county library. Library was closed during lockdown. Very bad for folks without internet at home, including homeless folks. Cindy or Ryan, do you know if there's any talk about adding more computers at the library?
I don't know that. Ryan, do you know?
I think Michael McAvoy is our new librarian at the library. He actually came on interim during COVID and then was appointed permanently. And he's fantastic. He's a young guy, really excited about new things at the library. And I want to say during COVID, they were actually lending out Wi-Fi packs and laptop computers to those that needed them, especially students. But I'd have to double check with him, to be honest. And I know they've reopened, so there's some ability to get a hold of him and contact with him. But I can check in on that for sure.
Okay. So the libraries are open to the public. It's been a while.
Yeah, they may be limited hours, but they are restarting some of their programs. I think at our council meeting last night, Cindy, I believe Michael announced that they're starting up some of their children's story times and things again.
And limited number of people.
Yeah, and the library's been offering vaccines as well on a regular basis. So they're still doing programs. I'm just not sure if it's their full run of programs yet.
Okay. Cody put in the information about the bridge home in San Pedro that serves the Harbor City, Harbor Gateway neighborhoods. And then we have a question from Mr. Kyle here. Putting people into a home does not address their need for mental health. Helping people manage their condition, which causes them to be homeless in the first place, should be a part of the funding. Definitely, sir. I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, I forget what the percentage, at least a third of the homeless are estimated to have mental health issues. And, it's probably the reason why they're a big part of the reason why they're ending up living on the street. And so, like, for example, that homeless court that I was talking about earlier in Redondo Beach, they have the LA County Department of Mental Health, service providers on site. so that they can intervene at that point and try to get them on the right track by giving them the mental health support services. And that's the kind of coordination of multi pronged approach to addressing the complicated situations that a lot of homeless people are facing, including definitely mental health services. So thank you for raising that point. Computers are critical to poor folks. Yeah, we hear you. I mean, that was part of the digital divide, and want to make sure that people have access not only to computers but to the internet. I'm a renter. Another question in the chat. Rents are putting many of us at risk of homelessness. $2,000 for 2 beds now. Oh my gosh! I mean, it's whenever I hear about how expensive it is to rent in the South Bay now, it's crazy. 2,000 for 2 beds. Sue, can you tell us what is that in Lomita or Harbor City? I'm just curious.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on a phone and I'm not very familiar with this stuff. Yeah, it tends to be 2,000. Some of them on my street are 2,200. Place across the street is 2,200 for a really tiny 2-bedroom. There's some units down the street. They now want 2,600 for a 2-bedroom. And those units are smaller than the 3-bedroom I'm currently in. So we're seeing a lot of demographic change in our neighborhood because the people we used to have as neighbors, there's no way that they can afford to live around here. $2,000 a month, you have to have an income of like over $70,000 a year. So you can do the math. If I'm single, it's really tough. For me, I've been in my current place for now 6 years. My rent usually has been going up like $95 a month per year. So I'm paying I'm paying $24.80 a month now. I started at a little over $2,000. I just got a so-called raise from work, which is it's way less than my rent increase. So it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm just trying to figure out how to get the hell out of here as soon as I can, but I don't have the money to relocate. It's really bad.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So over 2,400 for East. Did you say a 3-bedroom?
Yeah, most of others are probably more than that. I think I'm probably getting a bargain because I've been there for a while, and they would probably love to get rid of me and boost it up some more. But yeah, the price. I mean, I can tell you that the units across the street from me, which a lot of them are empty right now. He wants 2,200 something a month, and you can go on Craigslist. He's posted on Craigslist, and a place. I'm on Feijoa. The place at the end of Feijoa on 250th. They've just recently posted on Craigslist $2,600 for a 2-bedroom, and you look at them. They're not very big at all. You don't really have a yard. You're pretty close to other people. And this has been going on for some time. And I know I keep hearing people saying we have a housing shortage and that's why these prices are going up. No, that's not the only reason. We have owners are just trying to get as much as they can. And nobody's talking about that being unethical. I mean, it seems to be perfectly okay to try to get as much as you can. And I've heard these landlords talking back and forth about it. They just keep bumping it up higher and higher. And if they can get somebody to take it, they'll rent it out. It's just there's no way that their expenses have gone that much. If somebody has bought a property and bought it at the elevated price, then I can understand. Then you're forced to charge more rent. But a lot of these landlords have had these places for a long time. They don't have to charge that much. They're just taking advantage of it because this is income property. This is not. They're not doing a courtesy. They're making money. They're trying to maximize their profit. And they're just taking advantage of this. And I don't know what you can do about rent control. And frankly, it's too late to do rent control because it's already too high. People have already been forced out of the area. that's my 2 cents on the housing.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sue. It's good to for all of us, including me, to get a reality check in terms of how expensive. I mean, I remember when I first moved to Torrance at 238th and was that Arlington, right on the border. Yeah, right near downtown Lomita. Right on the corner of Torrance and Lomita. And I think I was paying, this was back in the mid 90s, it was probably around $900 for a 1-bedroom apartment.
Oh yeah, that was a lot. That was, no, it's 1 bedroom. I mean, even back in the early 2000s, a 1-bedroom, you could still get a 1-bedroom for less than $1,000. And even on my own street, my previous place, I started at $1,300. It went up to $1,400, and then I moved into this other place. Now my old place, it's probably a couple $1,000. So you're talking a place that's a couple $1,000 now was $1,300, saying back about 2009.
So if Mr. Kyle, I see your hand, but if I could ask Sue, I mean, if you were to leave, are you talking about going out of state or to Riverside or somewhere?
Me, it's in my dream to go out of state. It's been my dream to go up to the Pacific Northwest, but I've just haven't had the money to. I've been trying to do that for 20 years, and I just have not been able to accumulate the money I need. You have to have some assets to be able to do that, and I don't have any money. I've just been starting. That's a whole more story that I could tell you another time. But just it's many of us are just really struggling, and so our options are limited. And if you don't have if you don't have the money just to pay the double rent and the cost of moving, you can't move anyway, even if you can find something cheaper. But now you can't even find something cheaper. If you look and you find, if I get something smaller, it's going to cost just as much or more than what I currently have. So, but I haven't even been able to move because I don't even have enough savings to even pay that overlapping rent and the deposit on another place. So it's, and I'm better off than some of the other people I know. And by the way, my next door neighbor, she just bought it. She's in the process of buying a mobile home. So she will be leaving in about 2 weeks. And the owner is gonna bump up the rent another $100 for her old place. And she is moving, looking for, a buying option because she knows he's just gonna keep jacking up the price, and she's gonna be caught up like I am with rents going up and up. And she fortunately has a 401k and some resources, so she can make that move to a mobile home. She'll be over in Harbor City, so she might still be in your district. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sue, for sharing that. I'll definitely keep this conversation in mind when we're talking about the need to build more. Well, I know you're saying it's not about housing supply. You're talking about rent control, but
and like I said, it's too late. And the supply is part of it too. And the other concern I do have about housing supply is that I'm sure when we go to build more units, they're probably going to be, multi-unit housing kind of thing. And I don't want that. I intended the meeting a few months ago that Lomita had to tell us about how they have to add another 800 units or so in the next few years. That's not what I want. I don't want to live in an urban place. I've got buildings near me that have been put up. I'm near Narbonne, so I'm seeing these huge buildings and, different units. I don't want to live in that. I want to live in a little house with a yard around it, and that's just, it's unattainable for a lot of us now, especially single people.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
Mr. Kyle, you've been patient. Oh, you're on mute.
Just unmuted me. Perfect. I was actually just piggybacking on what Sue was saying, because I'm a teacher, so a lot of the families have moved out. They've left. They've gone to Palmdale and Texas and all kinds of places. But those places have become expensive too as a result. My question is, are there any discussions to making it easier for people to buy homes? Not in terms of first-time buyer programs. I'm curious about that formula of your, I think it's your monthly income to what the mortgage might be. Because at $2,000 a month, you have to have a monthly income of over $4,000 a month to make that equation work for someone to get into a property. If they change the equation and say, let's say, for example, the mortgage only can be a third of, actually a third wouldn't work. It could have to be like 60% of your monthly income. It would allow more people to get in. It'd be more of a burden on the people paying the mortgage, but it would allow them to buy more homes. So changing the formula, are there any questions about changing the formula?
Well, I'm not sure which formulas you're talking about, other than the formulas that I think are set by the mortgage lenders. Are you yeah. So and I think that's the those are basically business decisions that these mortgage lenders are making, and I'm not aware of any government, federal, state, or local that's setting trying to change or dictate those formulas. I think the discussions that we're having at the state, it's subsidizing. It's either some kind of subsidy for affordable housing units, or what's called inclusionary housing. To if there's a development approved for 100 units, that that 20% of those units would be required to be made available for people at different income levels. Those are definitely things that we're supporting. There's always a debate about whether it's these requirements that a certain percentage be set aside for more affordable housing, or whether it's rent control, whether that leads to a disincentive for developers to build. I don't know. It gets really complicated with all the economics, but I for one, I'm always trying to trying to balance those interests, recognizing that government can't do everything, that we need to rely on private development to build more housing, but at the same time trying to make sure that things are, there are options for middle class and lower income people, so that they don't have to move. But I hear what you're saying in terms of people moving to Palmdale or the Texas, because I'm hearing the same thing too. I was talking to the superintendent of Torrance Unified today, and he was talking about 12 families all moving to Texas because they can get more home out there. And it's tough. Everyone wants to live in California, and so we got people coming here from all around the world, as well as from other parts of the country. And so that makes housing more expensive, because I know a lot of people focus on the negative news about people leaving California, but the studies show that there are still a lot of people that are moving to California, but the people that are moving to California tend to be the more highly educated, high income people who can afford the housing here. So it's just leading to a tougher and tougher situation for middle class people to be able to afford to live in the South Bay. So thank you for sharing that. Let's see. Let me get back to the chat here. From Mr. Smoot, the city manager, in the statewide discussions, is there some discussion of incentives to make existing housing affordable as opposed to simply building new supply and all of the ancillary impacts that creates? Incentives to make existing housing affordable. Right, Ryan, can you give me like some examples maybe of what
Yeah,
you're
you
thinking?
hit it on it actually, Al.
Yeah.
The inclusionary housing question. I
Mhm,
think Sue hit on it really well.
Mm,
What we hear a lot is, I love where I live. I love the environment. I love the neighborhood I live in. I just simply can't afford it.
mm,
And that seems to be missing in the statewide discussions of,
mm,
well, just build more, because we're
Mm.
changing our neighborhoods into something that they weren't designed to be. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
impacts that come along with that.
yeah.
And I don't think that that's necessarily what people are looking for. They're looking to stay in the places they're in and be able to afford that. So
Mhm,
when we're talking through our housing envelope, and I mean, this is why I really appreciate, and I think our council really appreciates the stance you took for SB9, because
mm,
it focuses primarily on let's just build more.
mhm,
And we're taking the approach of let's take what we have and see if we can make it more affordable. So let's
mhm,
take the inclusionary housing approach. And I think you mentioned it. And I think
Mhm.
that is a focus that perhaps from Lomita, that's something as the city, we could get well behind of. Let's take the existing units that we have and see if we can make them more affordable to the people that are already in Lomita and the people coming into Lomita. And at the
Mhm.
same time, if we need to build some more, we can build some more. But let's take what we have and see if we can make it more affordable.
Mhm.
So if,
So-
the example of the 248th and Narbonne project that's going up under construction right now, we're working with that property owner to see if, maybe a couple of those units, even though it's already approved, maybe we can work to incentivize him and say, why don't you take a couple of those units and make them affordable units at a certain income threshold for a period of time, and we'll
Mhm.
incentivize you to do that.
Okay.
It's just one way that maybe we can step in and say, let's make something that's already done and already approved more affordable for those that are already here.
So the city can already do that, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
don't. Yeah.
Yeah, we can do it in some ways.
Mhm.
But for us, it becomes a question of funding for that.
Hmm.
I mean, we see the mandates coming down of you have to allow people to just build more.
Mhm.
And at the same time, we have impacts that come along with that. When we build a 200 unit apartment complex, there's sewer impacts, there's water impacts, there's traffic impacts, there's parking impacts, there's parks impacts, there's air and clean water impacts. All of that ostensibly we can set impact fees for, but I know the state is looking at sort of regulating that side of the equation too, which makes it how do we fund our communities and keep the quality of life going while at the same time keeping it affordable for our residents. So anything we can do to incentivize some funding to offset the costs of that housing for those that are looking to stay in Lomita is a good thing for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's a complicated situation, but I think the basic answer is that the prevailing sense in Sacramento is that because the demand for affordable housing is so huge that the state doesn't have enough money to be able to subsidize or to provide basically to be able to pay for allowing people that already live in Lomita to be able to make Lomita units more affordable. And so that's why it's we're looking to the marketplace to work in terms of trying to increase the supply. But I definitely hear. I mean, you're saying the same thing that I'm hearing from other cities. That okay, well, if the state is going to mandate higher density, then the state needs to provide the funding for the infrastructure needs that it's going to create. And that's definitely something that I hear loud and clear, and I need to keep working on. We did advertise this to go through 7:30, but maybe we can just quickly run through the questions that are posted here. Heidi posted it. Eviction moratoriums have any impact on property owners? They have mortgages and property taxes to pay. I'm a renter too, paying over $2,000 in Lomita. So great question, Heidi. I want to make it, I want to make sure that everyone knows that we passed like hundreds of millions of dollars in state funding to give assistance to landlords as well as tenants, to try to prevent people from being evicted and ending up living, becoming homeless. But those monies are just sitting there because people are not applying for them, and so I want to make sure if you know anyone that needs help in terms of landlords that need help, and because their renters have not been paying their rent and they have mortgages and property taxes to pay, then have those landlords contact our office, and we will help them get access to those state funds that are just sitting there. It's frustrating for people like me that we try to acknowledge that it's not just renters that are hurting, but also landlords, and so we specifically set money aside for that. But a lot of people, either because they're not aware of it, or somehow maybe the paperwork is complicated. I'm not sure, but we want to make sure that we're trying to acknowledge that point and help everyone. Deregulation. Well, deregulation can create problems as well as solutions. Let's see. Local options supplement federal regulation for long-term renters. We definitely need federal, state, and local working together. And on this last one, a message from Cody Bridges: we're running out of time. So I think that's the message. That's the cue for us. By the way, does anyone know what the score of the Dodgers game is? No baseball fans on here. I guess if you're a baseball fan, you're probably not on this town hall. So, and that is a cue for all of us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sagawa. Thank you to each and every one of you for this very interesting conversation. I definitely learned a lot about what's what the realities, especially the cost of housing in Lomita and your communities are. So thank you very much. Mary, you're holding up 7 there. Okay. Talk about bus transit. Sue, if you can follow up with us in our Torrance office. Cody posted our phone number at the top there, and we will follow up.